All right, thank you for joining us. This is Rich Dad Stockcast with Andy Tanner, wealth expert Andy Tanner. I should give you that official title, Andy.
I hate that title.
I know, but
I don't ever feel, when you're a student, you never feel like an expert when you're a student. And that as long as I feel like I have stuff I can learn, you know,
okay.
I like, how about wealth student? How about that? Fellow student.
No.
Expert?
And the reason I'm calling you an expert, because I also want to call you a teacher, because I want everyone to know that for this episode, you're giving away your free teaching, your free webinar, Zero to Cash Flow webinar. And so you're a teacher and you're an expert for this part. So sorry.
I'll tell you what,
take advantage of that webinar.
I'll tell you what I'll do. This topic I've run into thousands and thousands of times. And the biggest thing I like to do is leave people with no excuses. Now that's a scary thing. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got a full, like when you talk about zero to cash flow, or I only have so much money or whatever. I spent years traveling the world, years, and I'd have people come up to me I don't have any money. I don't have any money. I don't have any money. And there's a reason that I don't have any money. So what I did is I created a series. Like, this isn't a webinar. This is a full-on series. It's hours long. So whether it's funny, people might say, really? Or some people, really? It's just all about attitude. But I call it How the Rich Invest with No Money. How about that? And there's a saying, Greg, that says if you took wealthy people and you strip them of their wealth, they'd get, the money be back in the same hands in 5 years, or, whatever the cliche is. Why is that? And so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give people a free membership. This is not something have done before. I'll figure out a way, and my team will kill me because they're not here to. I'm always asking to do this stuff. In the Cash Flow Academy, there's a plethora of classes, but one of them is How the Rich Invest with No Money. I'll give a free membership, and I'll give them access to that class. But I'll give you a warning. After you go through that class, you're in a different state, because if you like to complain about not having any money, and that's kind of your thing, I don't have any money, I don't have any money, and people like that. Some people do, right? I can't do this because I don't have any money. It kind of gives them an excuse, right? A person goes to that course, no excuses.
Okay, but I'm going to complain about your course for a second. Do you know I took that course last year, I think it was, and I paid $80 for that.
How to invest with no money? It's there. Well, why didn't you just ask me? You're a friend. I'd have hooked my buddy up. I'd have hooked my buddy up.
Come on.
You're terrible. You got to let me hook you up, but I'll hook everyone else up. And I'll just give a warning, though. I mean, some people might say really, really cool. I says, well, yeah, but you got to realize from this day forward, after that course, you can never complain about not having money again. So because it's that powerful. So there you go.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. So we'll give both of those. Zero to Cash Flow webinar, short version. But how the rich invest with no money, it'll change your whole mindset. If you want to get inside some of those mindsets, it's pretty cool tools, pretty cool approaches, pretty cool strategies. How do people start with nothing and get something? It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
So sorry, I totally stole your intro.
That'll be in the description. So go there. In fact, go there now while I do the rest of this, legal crap, this is not financial advice. This is financial education. So you cannot just take what Andy's going to tell us and run with it. You need to first get your own education, probably by watching the webinar and the course. But you just can't take Andy's word for it and go. You have to make your own decisions. So,
I mean, you could, but we're just telling you not to. You can do whatever you want, right? But we're telling you to be smart.
How's that?
Exactly. Yeah.
And while we're here, go to the comment section, put your comments in, click on the subscription and all that. And the reason you want to put the comments in, I think it's been like 5 shows in a row, Andy, that we have picked our show based on comments. And I think everybody knows what this show's about. It's how can I invest in stocks with less than $10,000? And before we get too crazy in that is That's the question that if you ever meet Robert Kiyosaki in person, do not ask him that question. You have a chance to get punched in the face. Like, I don't think anything makes Robert Kiyosaki matter. So whoever wrote that in the comments, not trying to put you down here, but don't ask Robert.
Good job.
Andy.
Yeah. No, I don't know if that's me either, but no. This idea, so the question is, why does that set, a lot of guys off when they ask that question? And we talk about this probably every week because it's so pervasive that almost no matter how often we talk about it, there's still going to be a section of the population that falls in this trap. And this trap is what I call the culture of advice. The idea that it's someone else's job to tell me what to do. And it's a lazy culture because it doesn't require education. And that's why it's such a freaking cop-out of not. Let me give you an example. Someone says, Andy, should I buy gold? Okay, if I say yes, what'd you learn about gold? Nothing. If I say no, what'd you learn about gold? Nothing. There is no personal development. There's no stretching of the mind. There's no learning or understanding of precious metals. There's no study to that. And so someone basically says, look, give me money for free. I mean, that's what they're asking for, right? Just give me money. Tell me what to do so I get rich so I don't have to learn anything. And if you're an education advocate, which I would say, Robert and Kim are two of the greatest in the world.
Yep.
And they've written books to say, look, there's 6 things in Rich Dad Poor Dad. The first one is the rich don't work for money. Okay. The 6th one is, no one knows this. It's so funny. They read the book and I said, you like the book? Yeah. Name the 6 things. The 6th one is the rich work to learn. They're going to put in energy to learn stuff. And so when a person says, I got $10,000, what should I do with it? They're actually becoming an antagonist saying, look, I don't want to learn anything. I don't want to improve myself. I just want to be rich with no effort. And if you'll just tell me what to do, see, now I can just take my money, do one transaction, and now I'll be rich. And see, that's what I want. I don't want to do any work. I want something for nothing. Just tell me what to do. I don't want any effort. I don't want to put any time, energy, money, sweat, blood into getting better and improving myself. I just want it. Okay, the rant usually doesn't come that early. I just caught myself. It usually doesn't come that early. Rant part 2, keeping subtle here. The second thing it does, this is really important, and I will scream this, and I don't know if it's make good YouTube material, because YouTube is a place where people go to hear what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. Usually the things with the most clicks are things that people want to hear, like, oh, you're right, you're correct and everyone else is wrong, and here's why you're right, and everyone else, that's the stuff they like. It's CNN and Fox News, it's the same channel. You're right, everyone else is wrong, come listen again tomorrow. But if you really care about saying, tell me what I need to hear, what do I need to hear to, bam, change my life? I'll tell you what it is. You don't want to be investment centered. You want to be investor centered. In other words, once a person understands that their success is not a function of the investment class they choose, it's a function of the investor. Look, let's go through the asset classes and see. Go invest in stocks. You're going to find winners and losers. So the idea to say go invest in stocks is stupid because it's investment center. It's as if stocks were going to make you rich. No, people invest in stocks all the time. Now watch this. Warren Buffett. Here's someone who's investing in stocks, but that's not a secret. You can find people investing in stocks all day long. He's smarter. He has a better temperament. He has more discipline. He approaches it a different way. He has a wealth mindset. Warren Buffett's success is not a function of the stock market. It's a function of himself. It's a function of personal development, education, and wisdom. Okay, let's look at real estate. Go out and buy real estate. That'll make you rich. No, it won't. There's so many people that have freaking got their face kicked in from debt, bankruptcy. Just It's not real estate. But you take a guy like Kenny McElroy, I look at him, you know, like Kenny and my buddy Than Merrill. Both these guys have billions. I think Than just passed 2.1 billion under management, right? I mean, he's 40. He's 40. That's not a function of real estate. You know, Kenny, I think he's got 10,000 plus doors or something like that. That's not about real estate. That's about Kenny. That's about, he is smart. Like, he's wicked smart and wicked quick, right? He's smart. Let's look at oil. T. Boone Pickens. You know, you can go down the list. Business, Steve Jobs, you know, Bezos, you know, Musk, whatever. These people are icons because of who they are, not because what they chose to invest in. So that was a long rant. We got to move on. But if I could just have people make that switch to say, oh, if I achieve my goals, it will probably be a function of my own personal development and education in that asset class, as opposed to listening to, you know, the Rich Dad radio show and asking Robert, what should I buy one time? Like, my success isn't going to be, yeah, I was listening to the Rich Dad radio show and Robert said invest in real estate, so I did. No, it's going to be about the dragons you slayed and the hills you climbed and the getting back up off the canvas. It's going to be about toughness and personal development and discipline. And first and foremost, knowing what you're doing. So sorry for the early rant.
What are we, 5 minutes in?
I know it's rough. So,
okay, so I'm going to pull you back, and I'm going to ask you a question that you don't really appreciate, or maybe make a statement. So obviously, have to agree with you. You're smarter than me. The investor over the investment. Get that.
Thank you.
But you went through each asset class, and I do think one of the benefits of the stock market is you can start with less money, because you can. Yeah, you can scale up that as you get more knowledge, but you can start pretty low.
So let's reboot the show here. Reboot.
All right.
Okay, Andy, I only have $10,000. What should I invest in? Well, my first question is, why do you only have $10,000? Because the problem isn't that you don't have a lot of money. The problem is there's a reason that you don't have a lot of money. So let me answer that question with a question. Andy, I only have $10,000. What should I invest in? I'll go, okay, great. We'll get to that. But before we can move on to say what you invest in and give you advice, we have to ask a question. Why do you only have $10,000? And you're either going to say one of two things. You're either going to blame other people. Well, my wife's a raging beast and she won't let me do this, spends all my money, or you know, my boss doesn't pay me enough, or the school system screwed me. And you're going to point some fingers somewhere else. Or you say, the reason I only have $10,000 is because I haven't learned how to become wealthy yet. And so I will put people, like when I let people into my Cash Flow Academy, I actually put them in two piles, because I won't teach people that point the finger somewhere else. I won't do it because they're not ready to learn. But when a person says, this is actually maybe not what I thought I was going to hear, but it's actually a really thought-provoking thing. Why do I only have $10,000 to invest? Why? I mean, they just printed, $4 trillion over COVID. There's more millionaires that were made last year than any other time in history, right? There's money freaking all over the place. The Fed is raising interest rates because there's too much money in the world. We have too much. So why haven't I got my share of that? Why haven't I become prosperous? If a person begins to now you can feel we're getting somewhere with that guy, right? He's saying, why don't I have 10,000? So that's the first question, is in the most prosperous world that history has ever seen, and the more money of every kind of currency is being printed like crazy, why does a person only have 10,000 when 4 trillion is floating around out there? Well, it's the government. What? It's the elites and it's blah, 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 blah. See how the finger goes elsewhere? So the first thing I would say is get that finger and look at the ones pointing back at you and let the other let the other one join and say, if I learned more, if I was more disciplined, would I have more money? If I had more knowledge, would I have more money? If I had a better temperament, would I have more money? If I was more focused on my investments, would I have more money? If I got up in the morning and didn't think I'm going to go to a job, but I was going to learn more, would I have more money? And the answer to those questions is yes, you would. So it starts right there. Okay, now, I'm sorry. Your question was,
yeah, I did have a question.
Stocks. Your question was, one of the advantages of stocks, and the word I use to describe that is scalable.
Yes.
So while $10,000 doesn't buy you a McDonald's franchise in business, and $10,000 probably doesn't get you an oil well, although it might get you a piece of one. You might not be able to be accredited at 10,000 if you don't have a, an income that's massive, because you got to have a higher net worth or a high income. But the stock market is a place where you could start. You could also do precious metals with 10 grand, but you wouldn't cash flow. So if you want a cash flowing asset fastest, I would say that stocks are going to be the fastest way to get some in your asset column and to get some cash flow coming to you, no question, because it's scalable and it would be the fastest. Now that's also dangerous.
I was going to say, does it go the other way too?
It goes, well, there's easier access to that asset class without education than any other asset class. So you always have an issue with that. So yeah, you could go invest in stocks and you say, yeah, it's scalable, it's easy access. I can start an account, throw a couple $1,000 in there and they'll let you have a margin account, right? It's like handing a gun to a child. Yeah. I want to shoot something. Okay, well, here you go. You can do it. But the education piece is essential. So yeah, the stock market is a place that if you only had 10,000, you could get going. It would be more important though to act like you had no money. So maybe after the break, we could talk about that. You'd want to act like you didn't have any money.
Yeah, let's go to break. But when we come back, let's have you teach people how they can actually stock invest with no money and ways to do it in a responsible risk management sort of way. So when we get back from break, let's 100%. Do that. While we're on break, though, I highly recommend you go to the description, click on those links, get Andy's free course, get Andy's free webinar. And like I said, he made me pay $80. So go
I didn't make you. If you'd have told me, I'd have given it to you.
I was trying not to sponge off you. But all right, we're going to go to break. And when we get back, how to invest with zero money. All right, now we're on break. All right, welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast with Andy Tanner. I hope you got some good information from our advertisers. But also, I hope that you went to the description, clicked and got Andy's free course, got his webinar, like we asked you to do during the break. So it's, give you a little challenge to do. But we promised when Andy would come back that he would talk about how to invest really or learn investing with no money and a very safe way.
When you think, I love Kenny McElroy as a prime example of someone who's really mastered this art, because the irony that Kenny invests as if he had no money. The rich invest as if they had no money. Kim Kiyosaki and Robert too, they often would teach me in all those years I spent as a Rich Dad advisor, they would talk about one of their mentors. And I won't mention his name because I don't know if they want it out there, and it's not Rich Dad. It was a different mentor. And he said this, he said, only lazy people use their own money. And so when they developed the cash flow game, they had money they could have put into it, but they raised the capital anyway, because it was like a principle to them, right? Only lazy people use their own money. So when you go in the real estate world of debt, you raise the debt from the bank and the equity. You raise the cash. Part of it's called the financing part from the bank, and the other part is what you maybe call a down payment. And you raise that from private equity. So you have bank debt and private debt, and you use those two. So every deal Kenny comes to the table with, the only thing he comes with is creativity in the deal. And so he actually invests as if he had no money. So if you want a little clue of, well, if you took all Kenny's money away, how would he get it back? Well, he'd just do what he's already doing. He's already doing it without a need for money, right? Now, but more importantly, on the skill set side, one of the things you can start to do, you can play the cash flow game with no money. You can play Monopoly with no money. You can start learning, financial statements and you can start the learning process with no money. Well, stocks, to me, stocks, one time Robert said, Andy, could you do a game called Cash Flow 202 that was about stocks? And part of me wanted to say, well, it's already there. It's called paper trading. It's there. You can practice. It's all a game is a simulation. That's all it is.
Right.
So if you open up an account with no money and you start to paper trade, it'll change you. And people say, no, I got to make the money. I got to make, no. Look, if you, let me ask this. If you got in the DeLorean with a flex capacitor and went back to the future in the future, and you knew what was going to happen, like Biff did before it was going to happen,
right?
And you came back, but you don't get any money. I'll give you a trip to the future, but I won't give you any money. Do you think you'd be rich? In other words, I'm not going to give you a dime to start with. You got to figure that part out. But I will give you the knowledge that you would need to know the future. Would you be rich? And a person would say, absolutely. Just like in, I don't know which sequel it was, like Biff was the villain, and he steals the DeLorean. He goes and he gets like a sports almanac. Now he has the knowledge of the future. Well, okay, what if you could practice that skill in stocks? What if you could practice that where you got a sense of what was going to happen? Because there's a lot about the future I know in stocks. For example, I know the expiration date. I know the earnings date where there's a volatility crush. There's all kinds of things I can know and learn to deal with the future by practicing. And all of a sudden, let's say you take a fictitious $10,000 or $100. Start with $100 in your paper trade account and see what would happen if you knew how to grow $100,000 and do that for 6 months or a year. Your life will change. And I'll tell you what it'll change. When you get a paycheck from now on, you'll have something tugging at you a different way. For example, let's say you get a paycheck for, whatever it is, $5,000 or whatever people get paid, $10,000, whatever people make nowadays. And that paycheck is, 10 grand. All right, what are you going to spend that on? Or 5 grand. Okay, I'm going to go buy doodads. That's what I do. People have an education on how to spend money. They know how to spend money. They've been taught by TV and commercials their whole life. They know how to spend money. They don't know how to invest. So there's nothing pulling them the other way. But all of a sudden, now you have something called opportunity cost that will weigh on your mind. Because you think, I could spend this 10 and turn into 11, or I could spend this 10 and lose the whole thing. I'm actually losing more by spending it. I'm losing all of that money now and all of its compounding power for the rest of my life. So there's a gravity that pulls money towards you and pulls assets towards you if you have the knowledge. Now, if you don't have the knowledge, go buy your fishing boots or whatever you're buying. So the idea that you should really start with none before you even mess with your 10 grand and say, look, I'm going to start with none. I'm going to do a paper trade account. I'm going to get educated and learn how to do this. And I'll tell you, money comes out of the woodwork if you know what to do with it, I believe.
Okay, let's clarify one thing. We're talking about a paper trading account, and you get that from your broker, right? So you set up a broker account.
Any broker.
Okay, and then you can paper trade for free and really learn by doing. And Robert and Kim always say simulation is the second best way. Doing it for real is the best way to learn. Simulation, the second best.
That's what it's for. And the nice thing about it is you learn, like in Cash Flow Game 101, you learn capital gain with stocks. In every instance, you're buying low and selling high, buying low and selling high. You learn the capital gain side. I prefer the cash flow side. I don't like the capital gain side of stocks. I like the cash flow side. And so just as, it's the D word, it's distribution for real estate. It's dividend for stock. It's the same exact. You take profits and you divvy them up. And whether your divvy is distribution or whether your divvy is divide, you divvy it up. And then we also have options income you can learn about. So, and let's segue into that. Leverage, once you get to that crossroads, if you know how to leverage, the leverage in the real estate market is debt. That's your lever. And all that means is you can do a lot with a little. Think about that. The definition of leverage could very well be you can now do a lot with a little. Right. So if a person comes to me and they say, well, I only have $10,000 to invest, what should I invest in? I'd say, well, I'd invest in learning what leverage is because you only have a little. So the biggest key for you is to learn how to do more with less, to do a lot with a little. Ephemeralization is a Buckminster Fuller term, which means you can do everything with nothing eventually. So as you learn to do more with even less, and then even more with even less, and even more with even less, pretty soon that trend goes, you can do it all without anything. And that's the ultimate leverage. We call that infinite return. And so you can, the analogy I use a lot is I haven't been tremendously successful in the book business. I mean, Robert's been far more successful than me because I haven't really tried, and no one's going to beat Robert, man. That book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, will always be the best personal finance book of all time. I don't care who you are. I'm going to write one better. Yeah, no, you're not. It's a perfect book. It's a perfect financial education book. But in the book business, my first book I actually put on Kindle Direct, cost me $0. Yeah, typed it out. Oh, time is money. Okay, great. We all have good. Then we have 24 hours, don't we? Then you do have money, don't you? Right? Well, you put in time, that's money. Well, you have the same time I have. So you upload this for nothing and you get paid. That's an infinite return. Figure it out. It's division by 0. So you can use in business, you got AI. That's technology as a lever. AI lets us do more with having less, right? Chat GTP, more, you're getting more by doing less, right? So in business, you leverage other people, you leverage technology, you leverage OPE, other people's everything, other people's experience, other people's energy, other people's education, other people's efforts, other people's experience, everything. OPE. In real estate, the lever's debt. In stocks, the lever is options. It's a contract. It's an agreement that lets you do a whole bunch. We can control, 50 times, 100 times the amount of stock with an option that you could with cash. And so, go ahead. I see you had a question there.
Yeah, we're talking about using paper trading and all that to learn stocks. When you're doing paper trading, they're not really going to teach you how to do options. So you need some additional.
Oh, yes, they will. Absolutely. That you can do anything. Yeah, absolutely. If you have a paper trade account, you can paper trade stocks and options. There's 6 things you can do in paper if you want to look at stocks and options.
Well, hold on. Will the broker teach you, or do you still need to go
No. They won't. No, they won't teach you, but you can still have the experience. I mean, I'll teach you. That's my job.
Right. So your webinar, Zero to Cash Flow, you take that and then you apply it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Brokers don't teach you. They just want assets under management. They just want your money. That's it.
Right.
Jack.
So you
they'll fake. They'll give you a little. They'll give you a little this or that. But
hold on. You go to the description. Watch.
Yeah. There's a reason. There's a reason that we've been around since 2007. Is we just teach it better. Right.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that. But anyway. Options, there's 6 things you do: buy stock, sell stock, buy call, sell call, buy put, sell put. And the combination of those 6 creates, think of your PIN number with just 4, right? The combination of those things is huge. And so, we can do a lot with a little. So when someone comes and says, well, I only have $10,000, what should I invest in? Well, invest in learning how to do a lot with a little. There's this great video when I was a kid. It was called Prime the Pump. It's about faith in priming a pump. And it's a guy that his car breaks down in the desert. And like a dummy, he leaves his car and he starts tromping through the desert. He gets really thirsty. He comes across a ghost town. It's total ghost town, old West ghost town. It's got a little pump at the end of the street. And he pumps it, nothing comes out. And he sees a little can. And inside the can, there's a note that said, go north 3 feet, west 3 feet, dig a hole and you'll find a bottle of water. Now, don't drink the water. What you do is you take that water and you prime the pump. You put that water in the pump and you prime it. It'll gush like crazy. Drink all you want, but you have to prime the pump. Drink all you want and then fill the bottle, bury it, put this note back in so the next guy that comes along, he can prime the pump too. So the decision the guy has, the drama of this little 5-minute video is that he can either drink that water, drink his $10,000, or he can prime the pump to get unlimited amount of money type of a thing. And so when I tell people, I'll tell you what, you take that $10,000 invest it in you. I mean, if you look at Robert Kiyosaki and Kim Kiyosaki, they started their journey with 2 courses. Robert took a real estate course, and he invested some money to learn how to buy real estate. He learned it first. His very first investment was a real estate course. And when his first gift to Kim wasn't, a diamond necklace. It was an accounting course.
I can't believe they
and
got
so
married.
that, yeah. So their investments, right? Their first investment, the most important asset you could invest in is yourself. Hopefully that rings true. The most important like Blair Singer, I'll bet that dude has put $500,000. I'll bet he has. I shouldn't say that because I don't know for sure, but I'll bet if you ask him, say, what have you put into how much have you spent on your own personal development? I'll bet it's close to $500,000, maybe something like that. Because he just keeps reinvesting. He keeps compounding. And as a person, he's a compounded dude. I mean, that guy is a stud. So yeah, I tell you what to invest with $10,000. Invest in yourself somewhere. If you're interested in real estate, go find someone to teach you real estate. If it's business, go find someone to teach you business. I spent $10,000 on a mentor to teach me real estate. And it was crazy because I looked at 100 houses before that day. 100 houses. My wife, we bought none because we didn't know what we're doing. We said, I'm going to start looking for people instead of deals. Ran into this guy. His name was Greg. His name was actually Greg. And he was an old basketball buddy of mine who'd become a real estate investor. I said, hey, would you let me copy you and just follow you around? He's like, you're a stalker. And I said, I'll tell you what, I want to learn this so bad. I'll give you 10 grand. He said, what? I said, no, I'm serious. I'll give you 10 grand to teach this to me. He said, see you on Monday. On Wednesday, we had our first property. It took us 2 days.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it's an investment in self to learn how to do it that was most important. So that's the crossroads. You'll need to be aggressive. Look, last thing I'll leave you with, and the SEC people would probably get mad at me on this. I don't know, because you have 2 ways to think about this, Greg. If you were, older in life, let's say you're 50, 60, and all you got is 10 grand to your name. That's all you got. How careful do you have to be with that $10,000? Right.
Well, I'd be crazy careful. I'd be scared every penny.
See, and that's an individual thing. And that's probably what most regulators would say. Oh, you have to be ultra conservative. Okay. Let's say you live on $5 grand a month and you got 10 grand for retirement. You got 2 months. So the difference between having 30 years and 2 more months is not different. Like you retire from 60 to 90 for that 30 years, you got 2 months of money.
Right.
For me, I would say I'm absolutely going to be aggressive because I got to throw it. I mean, when you're down in the 4th quarter and you got, it's 4th and 16 because you had penalties and you've got 5 seconds left in the game, you got to throw it. Now that's not a high percentage play, but you got to throw it. My feeling though is that if you educated yourself and learned how to do a lot with a little, being aggressive makes sense in the context of education. Being aggressive does not make sense if you don't know what you're doing, right? So a person, if they only have $10,000, you'll have to be aggressive, which means more risk, which means more management, control, discipline. And it's going to mean leverage, doing a lot with a little.
But you also say be aggressive with your education. Like don't spend
crazy aggressive with it.
3 hours a day.
Yeah, it's like Abraham Lincoln or whoever talked about sharpening the axe before you chop down the tree, right? You got to be crazy aggressive in personal development because you're not behind financially. You're behind developmentally. If you're older and you don't have a lot of cash, you think, well, my problem is I'm behind financially. No, you're behind developmentally. So catch up, learn your butt off, learn. And you live in a world that has tons of education. Now, there's a lot of misinformation too. So finding the teacher that you trust is key because there's people with all kinds of crazy get rich quick messages. But what you really want is to learn to do a lot with a little and catch up educationally. I think we should close the show with the way we opened it. It's not about your $10,000. It's not about the assets. It's about you and what you know and how powerful you are. Not your 10 grand. The problem isn't 10 grand. The problem is Andy, right? That's the deal.
Yeah, I think the word used most was you. You kept going back to, you have to do this. You need to do this, not someone else, not your mom, not your dad, not your friend who never talks.
And I would say this, if it is to be, it's up to me. But when I don't even know if they have to, because they don't. It's your choice. You can do whatever you want to do. You can learn or not learn. That's total. Ball is in their court. It's not my responsibility to make someone successful. It's their responsibility to come to us and say, I want to learn, right? And if they don't have to take on that responsibility. I've learned that. Like, I don't try to save the world. But when I do find someone that has the grit and the fight and wants to go, they're the type of people who are fun to teach. So we bring them on board, and now it does become your life's mission to help that person. But I'm not a preacher and evangelist to say, oh, please learn, please learn. That's up to every individual, and they'll either take that or they won't. It's totally in their court.
Well, thank you, Andy. We do gotta get out of here. I think you had more Andy rants in this show than ever.
I know. I'm sorry.
Probably start counting those. But everybody listening, everybody watching, thanks so much. And Andy, we talked a lot about free education, all that. Thank you for the free education you just gave everybody and myself.
Yeah, I mean, take advantage of it or not, but it's there for you, and we provided that. And I'll talk to my team, and I'll take the heat. But yeah, let's not only do the zero to cash flow, let's do the how the rich invest with no money. I think it'll be a mind blower. It takes away excuses. When people see a clear path of why things are the way they are, and they'll say, okay, I can either move forward in this path or I won't. It really puts the ball in their court.
Right. Thank you, Andy.
All right.
And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See ya.
Podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.